Soul with the lab coat. I loved how upset everybody was about Lab Coat 21 being that good, because it is kind of fucked up when a DLC character comes out and they just do everything. You're like, why would I play another? This character is absurd. She just came out and everybody was like, bro, why? Why did they do this? DBFZ is such an interesting game right now because there's such like a dissonance between like the strong players and the game itself. The best players are so grumpy or so passionate about the game, depending on the day. It just creates such a weird conversation around it, because so many of the players who used to play the game and don't play it as much anymore in the online era are like, this game's a party game, this game's whack, kind of. And the people who still play it and love it are like mixed between they love the game and it's like still sick, but also like, yeah, it's kind of a silly game and there's some nasty things about it I don't love. They want to be happy about the game, but even if you do want to be happy about the game, the online makes you mad. Even still, the game is still good, so you're like, I still like it. And then all these people who are good at the game or were good at the game are mad at it. Even if they like the game, their excessive negativity really affects the things people talk about and choose to engage with. If like the loud voices are communicating in a way that's interesting, creating discussion that people care about, then like you can have that discussion. But if the loud voices are just like, boo, this game sucks, like all that kind of stuff, then it creates like a large group of people who will parrot that, but also you have to cut through all that shit and then like, yeah, slide that out of the way just to get to the part of the game that you want to talk about. You're like, man, I would love to discuss more in-depth things about the game, but every time I try, someone says like, haha, Ram Rekka broke. You're like, okay, can we just like, let's slide that out of the way and then like get to this part and talk about the juicy part of the game that matters. And you have to cut through all that nonsense. I feel bad because I don't play DBFZ now because the online's bad, but I still think the game is cool. And I think that people who still play it, it's sick. And I dedicated a lot of time to watching, studying, commentating, flying all over the world, talking about that game. I think Dragon Ball is super, super, super cool. There are people who cannot disconnect and they just make it harder for everybody else by being grumpy about the game sometimes. At the same time though, sometimes it's funny. So I get it. Anger does do numbers, and also it generates a frenzy, you know. It fuels you, and it does well. Like, people engage with that kind of stuff. Like, Strive had this issue for a while. I would try to show off, like, footage of Zato early in the game and just talk about all the cool things the character is doing, right? Like, look at all this cool stuff Zato's doing. Wow, he has all this strong stuff. And the comments are just like, yeah, well, why play him when you could just mash with Leo or Naga or Soul or whoever? So trying to create a discussion about the things that are actually interesting in the game is so hard when you have to slide away all this nasty shit just to make it there. They created such a nasty environment for people to try to like learn the game and enjoy it, that like anybody who wasn't just completely miserable about the game was like a beacon of light. For me in Strive, I think I was like having a great time. And over the first month and a half or 2 months, the grumpiness of everybody else was really hard to drown out, and it made me grumpy by association. I thought about that a lot. I was like, man, I was having such a nice time, but everybody else being such a shithead about the game made it so much less fun for me. I think that's a hard thing to deal with though, for sure. And it turns people off of the game too. I don't know that people necessarily do it on purpose, but like that kind of style of frustration and like just being nasty about shit, it really creates an environment that new players are less likely to want to engage with. Because if they're like, ew, everybody's pissed off over there in that direction, I'm not going to go that way. That shit seems like a disaster. As someone new to fighting games in general, wanting to play Strive was weird because people were just like, man, this game is shit, and I don't know if it's true or not. I think the actual answer is it shouldn't matter. You should just play the game if you think it's fun, because it's gonna happen no matter what your interest is. Because even like a good example is like Melty coming out. I didn't play that much Melty, but like so many people were like, dude, this shield RPS shit, this game stinks, like, oh, this is so bad, blah blah. Like for me, I don't even know if I thought the shield stuff was that problematic at the beginning. I think I remember saying like, I don't know if it's that bad, but there were so many people so mad about all that stuff all the time. That's a tough thing to swallow when you're just trying to check out the game, and then like all of the players who like the game are just grumpy all the time. How do I even navigate this? No one's happy. Why would I want to hang out here? You have to find other people or like creators or groups of people who are having fun and enjoying the game, rather than spend time listening to people who are grumpy or mad about the game all the time. That's such a hard thing to contend with, you know? You're trying to make stuff that's interesting and teach people and make a compelling discussion or thing about the game, and then all you get in response is just nasty mud flinging from people who, instead of engaging with the game, just want to like shit post about the stuff that's really surface level. I think the only thing you can do is just cut through it and like make stuff that you do care about. And like when people do say that stuff, you got to move past it. You got to just be like, yeah, this character's cheap, but like we all know that. Like that happened a while ago. You got to talk about what's going on right now. Who gives a fuck about the 1984 Olympics? Like look at the screen. Like we got new stuff to talk about here. You got to make fun of them essentially for talking about some old shit. For me, the way I do it is like, I'm always just like, yeah, this thing sucks, but like, you know, I enjoy other stuff about it. So I hope that thing gets fixed, but it's not the end of the world to me. When things do cause a problem with me enough for me not to want to play it, I'm just like, yeah, you know, this is not for me, I think. Like, these things all make me not want to play it, but I hope people enjoy it. People get really mad at that. They're like, how fucking dare you? When I'm like, yeah, the netcode's not great, I don't feel like playing it anymore, people just get so mad. And I'm like, oh, it seems like a pretty reasonable reason not to play. I did see someone say that. Someone said that, like, oh, Strive killed my love for fighting games by existing. That is a fascinating thing. I played fighting games a long time. I've seen a lot of video games, and I've seen a lot of stupid ass decisions in fighting games. I can only imagine what it would take to kill my love for the genre. But everybody's like, the reasons for enjoying a game and enjoying a community can always change over time. It could be a genre that's fighting games, or it could be something else too. MOBAs, card games, shooters, whatever it is. You're like, at a time, I really loved this game. And it turns out you might have loved the game, but you also might have just loved the feeling of the community or the events or something else at the time. The feelings that you got from that genre were more fleeting than you realize. And you're like, it's not for me anymore. It's such a fascinating thing to watch. It happens for every game. Just imagine a scenario where, like, I don't know, DNF Duel comes out and the game is like a blast, but like Ranger is just so good. He's just such a good character. There's all this cool stuff happening with like 9 other characters, like Crusader's doing cool stuff and Striker and Hitman, like all these other characters doing cool shit. And everybody's just like, yeah, but why play when Ranger's just broken? You know, he just does the Lightning Rider move and it hits full screen. There's nothing you can do. Yeah, he's good, but like all these other characters are tight. Did you see this? Have you seen that this is possible? Like you got to just cut through it, I think. Yeah, when Project L comes out, I mean, I'm sure somebody who doesn't play fighting games is going to make videos that are like, Gnar is broken, and like Gnar's gonna suck, you know. Gnar is gonna be like awful, but you gotta just be like, okay, all right, yeah. I mean that person doesn't know what they're talking about. Doing events for Lost Ark, and there's a lot of fighting game old heads. They are everywhere, I'll tell you what. A lot of people like fighting games as a genre, even if they don't engage with it that much. I'm sure all of you probably watch some genre of competitive game that you like don't play that often, or maybe even at all. I've watched Tasteless stream a lot, and I don't play StarCraft at all. I watch Artosis to watch him upset, and I watch Tasteless to watch Artosis while he's upset. And they both make me laugh.